Alrighty, well, I might as well explain something that Australia has done for more than a century in the country areas and done in part in the city for quite a number of years. I remember seeing slums, as they call them, in Sydney, very tight together, very small houses that had them, and it was pretty common back in the 60s in the city, and then it sort of faded off. And since the 2009 drought, when the government started handing out water tanks for free, like I mean ones about that size in plastic, for free, and encouraged everybody to start doing it, and then, well, sort of changed the building code laws a little bit and whatnot, it's taken off like a bomb. I'm talking about rainwater catchment. This house is set up rather shit. It's because a lot of the roof sheets aren't really long enough on either side, and the fact is I really need a new roof. But the fact is also that with a 20-year-old tank, as my parents got, I have a rainwater. Woo! Now, generally speaking, I just water the garden with it because there's regulars in that, and well, there's a few too many leaves in the bottom of the tank as well, and on occasion a bit of that old muck will come up. As I said, rainwater, very common in this country. Guess what? My grandparents and many other people drink it in preference to chlorinated and fluoridated water. It can sometimes taste a bit metallic being in the old galvanised tanks. Guess what? Nobody filters it. Nobody gives a shit. We just drink it. That's the way it is. We're not dying of worms and this and that and blah blah blah. And yeah, theoretically there's some bird shit in it and there's some cypress pine stuff and whatnot, but the majority of people don't filter it. When I first started living here, that was the water I used, and any that I drank or used in cooking I did filter because I don't really trust the idea of having lead washers on screws on the roof. I know they've been doing it for years, but I just don't like lead that's 100 years old and starting to corrode being in the water. So I used to put it through a $20 jug filter, and anything that I would drink or use for cooking would go through that filter. But yeah, it's no big deal to have rainwater, and if you notice carefully, it actually comes out sort of higher up. The idea is that your shit sits down the bottom. Now, as I have shown with my large plastic tank, if you do get any crap in it, what it tends to do in a sort of a V-shaped, like a cone, sort of in an arc, around where this outlet is, there will be no rubbish, and then the rest of it there will be rubbish sitting in the bottom, and this one is quite bad because of its age, basically. There is a mob who occasionally throws a leaflet in my letterbox, and they basically will clean out tanks. Not ones like this, but real big thumping ones like my green one, and bigger. And some people have concrete ones with no top on them, and they tend to get a bit of dust and stuff in there. As I said, it's no big deal, and it's to the point now that there's something wrong with you if you don't collect rainwater, especially after they started handing out the tanks for free for about a year and a half there. And in fact, with new houses, you have to have, I think it's 5 or 6 different energy efficient things. Some people get grid feed solar. Quite a lot of people get solar hot water. I'm not talking the old style where you got like a blooming glass box with black copper pipes in. I'm talking about the new style evacuated tube. One of the first ones I ever saw of that technology is just over the other side of the valley on a house I drive past when I go that way. And of course, insulation is another one of these things. By the way, they have natural gas or sometimes propane boosted solar hot water. So it goes through solar hot water first, and then it goes to sort of, I don't know exactly, I think it might go to a tank, and then it goes to an instantaneous natural gas or propane hot water system from there. That's the standard way they set things up. And of course, one of those things is rainwater. And in fact, the way it is, it's actually the cheapest and the easiest to do, to tick off your 5 or whatever amount of different efficient housing things that you have to do as part of getting a new house passed. And if you don't include these damn things, they just will not pass it and you will not get your new house. So that's one of the easy ones that people always instantly go for, and then you usually go for the solar hot water, and then might be the grid feed solar. They'll definitely do insulation anyway, so that'll always be another one. And that's what you got to do. And it's got to the point now where there is something actually seriously wrong with you if you don't use rainwater. In fact, these new houses I'm talking about, they have a smaller tank that's probably, basically usually about 1.5 times the size of an IBC. That's the standardised one. And they actually have a water pump built into the bottom. The bottom is like, I showed one once ages back, but it's almost like you have this little hump in the bottom that's hollow, and they put the water pump in there. And you've got a series of valves and shit, basically, and little float things and whatnot. And these new houses, they plumb the washing machine and the toilet, or the cold washing machine water at least, and the toilet directly off the rainwater tank. And then when the tank runs dry, only when the tank runs dry, does the automatic switchover occur with all the valves and the bullshit, and it goes back to mains water. And then, as soon as you've got any more than about 10 or 15% in the tank again, bang, switches back to the tank again. It's built in, you don't have to look at it, you can just ignore it. And it all does it on its own. And that's the way it is here with rainwater. I still have a lot of Americans argue with me about it all, regardless of the fact that my country is not the same as theirs. I still have Americans say to me, "Oh, he's getting his place sorted, but when in the hell is he going to get a well?" No. We don't get 36 inches of rain a year. Hell, this region I'm in gets 22 all year. 22 to 24 inches of rain on a good year. My sister's area is considered a very high rainfall area. That's 36 inches of rain a year. And I'm hearing about the state of Arkansas getting more than 36 inches in 1 month. As a result, we don't really have water tables in all parts of the country. In Western Australia, we did. It was more than a quarter mile deep and full limestone, but we did have one. And other areas of the country, well, it's a bit hit and miss, and some of them that they find, well, they sort of, you pump them dry and they never refill because it's just a pocket in amongst, on the top of a rock shelf or something like that. Yeah, they're not very reliable, at least in this side of the country. And so we rely on rainwater because we already have the roofing to take it. Interesting fact, no bitumen roofs over here, not in hell, because of what's called ember attack, which is another way of saying little embers blowing through the air that sit on your roof in the middle of a wildfire, or as we call them, bushfire. So you have two options: tile roof or a corrugated iron roof, like that. Sometimes they have these sort of a concretey, glazed concrete instead of tiles. It's sort of imitation tile that's sort of like a concrete with a glaze over it. And very old buildings had it's not, is it thatches? Yeah, those little square pieces, they're like tiny little planks, a whole shitload of tiny little short planks on the roof. I forget what they call it again. It might be a thatched roof. But that was the old days. Unless you're doing a heritage building, they won't let you touch that crap in a million miles. Not these days, not for a new building. Or even a renovated one, that, unless it's in the exact time period when that was realistic, you know, and they actually, it's already got one underneath. What a lot of the time what they do is they get one of those thatch roofs buildings, and I've seen ones like quite a few of them around, if you really go looking, but I've seen two where the sheets have actually come off and you can see it, where you got your thatch roof and then they've just gone whack and dropped the flame and corrugated on straight over the top and screwed it into the thatch roof. You know, I've had probably the second biggest prepper on YouTube, you know, one of the top half dozen big preppers on YouTube, argue the toss with me about rainwater off roofs and all that sort of shit, and you know, he had a tendency to think he knew it all, but I could tell you what, he had no damn idea. But they have the idea that they're teaching everybody else, and that's all there is to it, and nobody else knows jack shit. Not even people from other countries where it's done differently. So anyway, I just thought I'd make that little one, and don't worry about Troy drinking rainwater off his roof. Nothing's happened to me yet. Nothing's happened to the other 20 million odd Australians that are here, and honestly don't think a large amount of you really give a shit what happens to Troy anyway, so yeah.